Good Wednesday morning, everyone. It's a great day to be alive and rejoice in the Lord. Today is the day He has made, and you and I are going to rejoice in it. And the news that I'm going to give you right now should make you rejoice. We've been talking all week about the return of Jesus to earth, from the heaven to the earth. That's why I love this background for this topic. And today, that aspect is when we meet Him. And the word that's often used, and I'm sure you have heard it, whether you understand it or not, is rapture. The word rapture, the rapture of the church. What does that mean exactly? Well, the passage that it really relates back to is in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 at verse 13. And we'll read that in just a moment. Well, actually, why don't we go ahead and read it right now? And then I can explain to you because you won't hear the word rapture. This is us meeting Jesus face to face if we're still alive when He comes back to earth. And He is coming back. We've certainly determined that in the first 2 days of this week. And here's what it says. Paul writing to the church in Thessalonica, "For the Lord Himself will come down from heaven with a loud command and with the voice of the archangel and with the trumpet call of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and those who are left right here will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air." Wow. Can you imagine? It's like flying, isn't it? And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage each other with these words. You know, I like that Paul adds that last sentence because sometimes life is rough. And it was for them, when that was written, the church was under great persecution. And he wanted to encourage the believers. And so he tells them about when Jesus Christ returns for them. And we get caught up and meet Him in the air. That should be no less of an encouragement for you and I. I mean, it brings home the fact that this life is temporary. And in fact, this life could end in the next moment. If in the Lord's will, Jesus came back, there's nothing that couldn't stop Him from returning in the next minute. And we would all rejoice. And we'd all be caught up with Him to meet Him in the air. So where does that word rapture come from if it's not in this passage? It's not in another word in the Bible either, I would add. No, in 4:17, where it says we will be caught up together. In the Latin translation, which was called, by the way, the Vulgate. But anyway, in the Latin translation, it's the word caught up in Latin, rapturo. And for some reason that caught on and we took it over into English. And so even though the Bible is written in Greek, we call this event the rapture, which is in some ways silly, but at least we all know what we're referring to, and it's this passage. Now, what do we learn from this? And what actually happens? What are the events that we just read? And they're actually 4. And I want to give them to you this way because I think if you thought, but sometimes it helps us to be organized in our thinking if we quantify like that. And the first thing is what? The Lord descends. It says, "For the Lord Himself will come down from heaven." So the very first thing that happens is Jesus comes back. Right now, He is in heaven, seated on His throne. But He will come down from heaven. We just read that yesterday. The same Jesus will come and appear in the clouds. and it will be unexpectedly. We don't know the timing, but that's the first thing. Jesus Christ comes back. And secondly, what did it say? It said the dead in Christ will rise first. Isn't that something? That this is the time when Jesus comes back to earth, that we will be reunited with our body. And in fact, it'll be a resurrected, glorified body. In another passage, it says, like his glorious body. When we die, our spirit never dies. And evidently, we have some sort of intermediate body, because we know when we glimpse into heaven, in fact, there in Revelation, when John sees the saints who have gone before, they're wearing robes or clothes. You can't wear clothes if you don't already have a body, but it's not going to be our final. And somehow we recognize each other, by the way. If we couldn't recognize each other when we're caught into the sky, how would that be encouraging? It would not. We need to be able to recognize each other, and we do. And that's why it is encouraging. So it's at this moment that we will be, in a sense, reunited with our glorified forever bodies. So, isn't that something? After that, it says, we who are alive will be caught up. Jesus comes down, the dead in Christ rise, and then we, if you're, or whoever is alive at that time, they will rise to meet Jesus in the clouds. They're caught up with them in the clouds to meet the Lord. And that's the fourth thing. The fourth thing is we will meet the Lord in the air and be with him forever. Forever. Isn't that beautiful? It's so awesome. It really makes us able to get through this life when we know glorious things like that are happening. Now, I get two questions that always are asked. One, well, what about those people who have cremation, or that are lost at sea, or that are burned up in a fire, or whatever it might be, where the human body is destroyed rather than just being buried in the ground? Well, clearly, that's millions and millions and millions of people who are followers of Christ. And the God who made those bodies in the first place has every capability of drawing them back together. And he will. And he will. You need not worry about that, because he will do it. Now, the other question is, when does that happen? When does the rapture happen? And specifically, do we go through the tribulation? You know, there are good, solid, Bible-believing Christians that take different views on that, and some think it's, well, most today think that it's prior to the tribulation. And the main reason is that when you see the tribulation, there's actually a couple other verses that apply, but you never see the church talked about at all in Revelation 4 through 18. And if the church, that is us believers, we're still here on earth, everyone believes that would certainly be mentioned, and it is not. So it's a strong, strong case that it's prior to the tribulation. And I think you and I are for that, aren't we? But you know what? No matter what happens, God is in control. But that is my belief, and I strongly believe it. I just don't believe that the church goes through the tribulation. And so it's something you and I can look forward to. That is the rapture of the church, the caught upness of the church. And we'll be with him forever. Hey, we're going to talk about one more thing each day. I hope you'll join me tomorrow. It's exciting. See you then.
Oh, come to the Father through Jesus the Son, and give him the glory